This past weekend, this guy hit me up to go to this party, and I already had other plans. Later on, he's texting me, obviously drunk, and he's trying to get me to come over to his house. Mind you, this is already crazy, but this is someone I've met once. I have not even been on a date or seen this person even out other than the first time that we met. Like I always tell you guys, it's not so much about what you say as your action. So I'm not about to go off on this guy and like let him know that what he's doing is fucked up and I'm not that kind of girl. How dare you? I'm gonna entertain myself. So somehow in my lit mind, the best thing I could have said to him in that moment, which honestly is the best thing I could have said to him, is like, so he's like, oh, come over, like da da da. I say, sounds tantalizing, but I'm gonna have to pass. In case you guys wanted to know, the word of the week is tantalizing. And all he said was, oh. Very tantalizing. Welcome back to another episode of the Stella Herself podcast. Don't forget to comment below, share on your IG story, subscribe to my Patreon, follow me on IG. Happy July 4th. I love a July 4th aesthetic in like a national anthem Lana Del Rey sense. Growing up, honestly, I had mixed feelings about the 4th. Especially as a kid, I was like more quiet. Like I didn't really like all the loud sounds, and usually there would be like a block party in my neighborhood or something, and I just remember there being a lot of like older kids and like they were just like messing around with fireworks. Someone always got hurt, and I just didn't really like that. But then it's like also kind of, you know, that summer vibe, and I just also have so many good memories of like watching the big fireworks at the end of the night. But then it's like also, especially as you get older, the stress of finding a plan, like I don't know. But this year I'm just gonna try to be cute and have fun. So I hope you guys are safe, stay hydrated. Beverages of the day, I have a ginger lemon kombucha, a little bit of cold brew, and water. I also drank this whole thing of electrolytes. So last week's episode was titled, I think you guys need to think a little less. And you know, I take it back. People actually need to think a little bit more. One of my TikToks go viral, and it went a little viral on TikTok and Instagram Reels. And whenever something goes viral, you know, you get all sorts of people commenting on your stuff. It's not like the OG people that know you, know your vibe, like know your humor. And I think I had tweeted this before. Like I know I've said this somewhere before, but I just couldn't find the original tweet. But the TikTok was, I low-key feel like your 20s are an extension of your teens, your 30s are what your 20s are advertised as, your 40s are your baby adult years, and finally at 50, you're a real adult. And if you get it, you get it. Most people did get it. This was more so a little jokey joke in reference to imposter syndrome, how most adults feel like children mentally, like in adult bodies, how a lot of people just feel, yeah, like imposter syndrome, like underqualified, or like, oh, like when is my life gonna start? When you're a kid, it's like once I'm an adult, I'm gonna feel like an adult. But there's no, like, obviously there's like the legal age, and there's like, you know, that, and your brain fully developing, which low-key that should be the legal age, let's be real. There's not really, it's not like you automatically just feel like, oh yeah, I'm an adult now. The closest thing to that, I have to say, is my brain developing. I also think for a lot of people, it's once they have kids, they feel like, okay, I'm a real adult. But even that, you know, there's a lot of examples where people don't feel like that. And then this was also kind of, you know, a reference to beauty standards, especially for women, and how once you turn 25, it's like, oh my God, you're so old. And like all these literal teens on TikTok and just society, like calling people who are 23 old, 23-year-olds, like, oh my God, I'm so old. It's like, no, you're not. And I just genuinely, like, I'm sorry, I don't feel old. I feel like I've matured a lot in the past few years, and especially since my brain's developed. Like, I'm like, yes, it feels good. Like, I personally feel like now my life can start, now that my brain is developed and I just have more life experience and a better understanding of how the world works, and like, I got more game now. You know what I'm saying? Like, so this was more so like, guys, your life doesn't end once you turn 21, 25, you know? It's actually just beginning. So many people say that. So many people in their 30s are like, finally, like, once you get over the fear of turning 30, it's like, oh my God, now I could just live my life. It's lit. Like, I'm still young. Like, I can do more shit. I have more money, more life experience. Like, I can travel more, etc. Usually people are more aligned with their career path. And then for women too, yeah, we do have, you know, a biological clock, but we can still, for the most part, have kids like after 25, and there's just so much life to experience, and you have so much more of your life to live. So if you're looking at your life through this like dismal, like, oh my god, like I'm just gonna be so ugly, like I look way hotter now than I did at 18, than I did at 21. I know how to dress better, I do my makeup better, my body looks better, like if you don't feel like that for yourself, you could turn it around. But I'm just saying, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, stop trying to rush. Like, why are people 23 saying, I'm so old now? No, you're not. Like, this has been a thing, you know? And I feel like probably in the olden days it was even worse because life expectancies were less and women had less rights and like, etc. But it's not the olden days, babes. Like, you have an entire life that you can live, and I don't know, I just feel very excited to like live my life. I think something that also helps with this is having role models, people that are older than you, especially for men and women, of course. Please, like, the men out there need some positive role models. There's this woman I follow on Instagram, and she actually does a lot of content about menopause, which I think is so cool because you just never really see that, you know, in regular media. And she just makes so many videos about like aging and like wisdom and like all this stuff. Her name is Tamsin Fadal. She doesn't have kids. She's like so chic. She lives in New York. Like, she's iconic. Her career is like so cool. But like, that's an example of someone, it's like, oh my god, like my life could look like this. And you don't have to just go by what society expects of you, what your parents expect of you, what your friends are doing. You know, you can like carve your own path. I think that's a lot also easier when you're in a big city, when you're not like in a little suburban town. You can create anything you want out of your life, and your life does not have to end once you turn, 21. And then my video is also kind of commentary on just like, when I was like 21, 22, 23, like at the bars, at the clubs, like I always felt young because everyone was always older than me. Everyone was like 26, 28. There would be so many guys in their 30s. I'm just always, for the most part, friends with people that are older than me. And so maybe that's also part of why I just don't feel like, oh my god, like my life's over. Like, oh my god, I'm so old at 25, you know? And I'm interested to see how that may change for myself once I am actually getting closer to 30. Like, it is coming up. Right now, let me know if you're around my age, like 25, 26. It's like we're kind of at the halfway point. I mean, if you're 26, you're like closer to 30. Trigger warning. If anything, I'm just like, okay, let me make the most of the rest of my 20s, you know? Like, I'm like, I want to take a new trip every year until then. Not that I'm going to stop doing that after, but it's like, it just kind of, for me, has made me feel like, let's lock in. Let me make the most of this time. Because your early 20s, at least, again, for me, like, and your brain not being fully developed, I just really felt like time wasn't real. Like, I was kind of bullshitting a lot. Like, you just don't really take into consideration, like, oh, I have time. Like, oh, that's like so far away. Like, oh, I guess living in the moment a little bit more. I don't know. But now I just feel way more structured and like, okay, let me lock in. I've said this before. I think also living in a faster paced environment just makes me like really want to make the most of my time and like think longer term and like that kind of thing, which I think is all great and all a part of getting older in a healthy way. People were really trying to spin it though. Again, most people did get it, so like I don't like to focus on the hate, but people were trying to say like, oh, you guys are like not trying to take responsibility for your life. And this is why I say some of y'all need to think a little bit more, because people are just, I don't know what it is, if people are dumb, if people are just miserable in their own life and like just want something to hate on. Like, it's so weird to me because I would never like comment a hate comment, especially about something stupid. Like, if I see something stupid, I'm like, scroll, not interested. Like, why would I invest any time and emotional energy into that? And that's why I just can't really take any hate comments serious, because it's like, I know I'm chic and I wouldn't do that, so obviously you're not chic. But yeah, people were like, oh, you're like being a creep, like you're wanting to be a teen, like, and it's like, no, like obviously you're just young. I think a lot of people on the video were just young and didn't know what I was talking about because they're just not at that stage of life. Like, they're probably literally still in their teens and they just don't know, like, okay, just because you're a certain age doesn't mean you feel like quote unquote feel like that age, feel like an adult. And I'm not saying that obviously as an excuse to like be a predator to a fucking teenager, or if you're a 30-year-old man, talk to a 16-year-old, you know, obviously. Like, what? People need to use their brains. Like, it was so funny. And I say this in my upcoming vlog, but right after, it was like the day after I posted that podcast of like some, like, you guys need to stop thinking so much. I was hanging out with this girl. I was just like talking out loud about like how I was structuring my day, because we were hanging out and then I was going to meet up with someone else, and I was like telling her, like, I don't know if it was about the train coordination or like how I had to plan my outfit or something. And it was like very normal to me. Like, I'm just like, you know, structuring the time so I can like make the most out of it. And she's like, oh my God, like, you just think so much. Like, I need to get like that. I was like, ugh. It was so funny because it was literally the day after. But fuck, so let's use our brains. Y'all, like, seriously, it's like, oh my God. Think logically and lock in and make the most of your time. Switching gears a little bit, I just want to give a shout out to myself. I have been so good at dodging dusties lately, and it's been so many instances where I just have not lowered my standards, and then the dusties like excuse themselves, and it's been amazing, and I just feel like more and more proud each time. It was so funny. My friend and I went out the other day during the weekend, and I already knew this was not going to be a chic vibe. I was just going to have fun with my friend. You know, I'm not thinking like, oh, maybe I'll meet someone at all, like literally at all. So this guy starts following me around and will not leave me alone. He's not being like creepy, but just like he wants to talk to me so bad. And so I'm like, let's take a shot. I'm like, you need to make yourself useful because you're scaring the other hoes. And he just was not cute. So I'm like, let's take a shot. I walk over to the bar. Obviously he follows me. And then he's like, wait, did you think, this man must have been like younger than me. Like, I'm like, what? He's like, oh, did you think I was gonna buy the shots? I'm like, duh, babes. Like, why are we even having this conversation right now? And he's like, oh, like, full disclosure, I can't do that. Like, bye. And then he like literally runs away. Like, I'm not even kidding. And I was like, period. Like, thank you. This is why you have to do that, because we just saved so much time. Like, obviously I'm out of your league so much. Like, you can't even buy me a shot. Now you're not annoying me anymore. So it's a win-win. Like, I either was going to get a shot or he's going to leave me alone. Literally in that exact second, because my friend was also with me. We're standing next to the bar. As soon as he dips, this other guy, obviously older, like he was in his 30s, you know? He knows, I mean, there's Dusties in their 30s, but you know, it's like, he wasn't just like a young random who doesn't know how to like get a girl. Like, he's at the bar ordering and he just like looks at us and he's like, oh, like, what do you guys want? And we're like, a tequila shot, please. And then he's like, oh, I'm gonna call my boy over, like we can all take a shot together. And then he just orders a shot. Like, and it's really like, it's not like getting a shot is so impressive, but I'm just saying, like, it was just so funny, the difference, because immediately after that guy excused himself, this guy was like, what can I get for you ladies? And we were like, thank you. And then he left us alone. So all of these like whiny little guys who are like, and honestly, y'all, I gotta be careful because I've been getting a lot of like the red pill, like troll, like dweebs on my Instagram lately. It's like, ew, like, yeah, I like the views, but I don't want you guys commenting. And then like I turned off comments on one that was like a reel that was getting a lot of just like comments from these disgusting guys, and then they started commenting on other ones. So I'm not trying to piss off any bros, but this podcast is not for the random little bros. Like, it's for the girlies, the gays, if they want, if you are entertained or can gain something, period. But anyway, I just see so many girls talk about how they want to find love and like, let's go to the bars so we can find guys. Like, I just want a boyfriend, I want to find my husband. And I think it's almost getting worse. Again, speaking of age, as we're getting older and these girlies are getting closer to 30 and they're feeling that pressure from probably their families and society and like other friends that they have and all this stuff, it is better to be single and chic and have all these guys want you and doing stuff for you than to settle for someone who is not the best fit for you because you're desperate or lonely or just want to cross that off your checklist of life. Please stop. And this is why it is so important to first focus on yourself and building your self-love and swag up so much that you are not even gonna fall for the scams. Lower your standards at all, you're not gonna do it. And you're only going to entertain guys who can improve your life. You can call that entitled, you can call that whatever you want. I don't really care, because why aren't you calling these guys entitled? I just thought, oh my god, it was like the most pick-me ass tweet. This girl was like, women these days are just so entitled, like they want a guy to pay for everything. Like, a girl was tweeting this, and it's like, okay, first of all, that's how it used to be in the olden days, and I'm not advocating for the olden days, but this is not like a new concept. Second of all, where's your tweet about men feeling entitled to women's bodies and time and emotional energy and domestic labor and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Like, if we really want to talk about entitlement, why does this guy feel entitled? I smiled to him on the sidewalk, you know? Like, if we really want to talk about entitlement, you know how much women put up with? Anyway, it's not even worth, like, chatting at someone like that, because they just don't want to listen, and they're, like, so insecure, and, like, they just want to get picked so bad that, like, that's the most important thing to them, so they're not going to listen to, like, real life. Focus on self-love. Like, I don't know, sometimes you need something really dramatic to happen to you in order for you to get it, like, understand, like, oh, I don't make the best decisions unless it's coming from a place of putting myself first. And shit really gets serious as you get older. Because, like, let's just use Desperate Housewives as an example. And if you haven't seen it, you'll still be able to follow along. So, one of them, Susan, she is kind of like a pick-me for this guy, Mike. Like, the whole series, she's, like, obsessed with Mike. And, I mean, Mike worked hard, but I don't know why he, like, has no money. So, in this one, season, Susan inherits all this money. And then she finds out that, like, Mike is so in debt with his plumbing business, and, like, he has no money, and all these people owe him money, and, like, all this stuff. And he refuses to take her money, which was, like, okay, I guess, he wanted to, like, be a man and, like, pay off his own debt, which, like, I guess he's not really a dusty, but they have to, like, downgrade their house. Like, they have to move out of their neighborhood and, like, move to this little shack apartment and, like, be just so poor and have no money and be stressed out all the time. So she starts, like, being a stripper, and then he's like, oh my god, you can't be a stripper, like, I'm gonna take this really dangerous job in Alaska, so now basically you have to be a single mom. And it's just like, if she thought logically, she wouldn't have been chasing Mike all these seasons. Like, she was always the one chasing him. And I'm not saying he's, like, a dusty or, like, not a good guy, but, like, it's just, like, now you're stressed out all the time. Lynette was such a successful businesswoman, and she loved her job so much, and then her husband just keeps getting her pregnant and wants her to be a stay-at-home mom, and that's, like, just not really who she is, and so she's, like, low-key miserable. Bree becomes this super successful, has her own business, like, is so, making so much money, just is, like, so happy, and then her husband's like, you're not being a good wife to me anymore, so it's either me or your business, like, you have to sell it. And then thank God she doesn't end up doing it. But it's just like, you really have to choose wisely. And all of your decisions in your life have to support you and your best interest in your future and your future self. Because, when we're a little bit younger, it's not as serious. Like, it's like, oh, maybe, like, this boy will hurt my feelings, break my heart. Maybe, he'll cheat on me. I'll find out he's Snapchatting someone else. But as you get older, especially as you start having kids, getting married, and, like, having your finances tied up with someone else, or becoming reliant on someone, or, I don't know, like, there's just a lot of women that end up in these kind of controlling relationships where the guy just doesn't want them to do this, doesn't want them to do that. It's not really about being entitled, it's about choosing wisely, because these guys do not care. They will run you to the ground, they will take and take and take, they will only make decisions that benefit themselves, so you have to only make decisions that benefit yourself. And of course, yeah, not all guys, but a lot of them. And so it's just better to have your own best interest in mind, which is really hard because we're not really taught that as women. And I'm actually reading this book. It's so good, you guys. It's called How to Say Babylon. It's a memoir from this woman who grew up in Jamaica, like, growing up Rastafarian, and kind of how controlling her dad was. She's actually coming to New York to do like a little like book tour thing, and I kind of want to go. Like, it's just so good. Her dad just wanted to control the whole family, and especially since she was a girl, like just how hard that was, and like watching her mom kind of like submit to her dad and just kind of be quiet and not ever like raise her voice or have her own opinions or like anything like that, and how the other wives of their Rastafarian guys were kind of like that too, and like all this stuff. You know, I'm a third of the way through it, so we're still in her childhood years, but I think it's basically about how she broke free from, you know, her father's dominating presence in the family and all of that. That's a little more extreme of an example, but I'm sure a lot of people grow up like that. A lot of women grow up like that. But even just by society, you know, it's like, oh, this is what a good wife and mother looks like, and that's kind of like your fate. And if you want to do anything else, it's like, ew, like, how dare you? But it's like, even if you do just want to be a wife and a mother, it's like, you need to find someone who is going to love you and support you and like be a positive influence in your life. It's so harmful, and it's so hard to break free from a situation like that. Again, especially as you do get older, as things get more serious, if you have kids, if you're married, whatever, and just even the hormonal, like, chemical bond you start to form with somebody. So my advice is to treat yourself like your own baby, your own, like, all that nurturing energy that you want to put into a guy. Like, when I see these girls like, I just want to find love, it's like, put all of that energy into yourself. Check in with yourself. Ask yourself, how are you feeling? What do you need today? What do you need right now to feel good? How can I best assist you? What do I need to feel good and supported? Do I need a little nap? You know, like, baby yourself, nurture yourself, focus on looking hot. Like, honestly, it really goes a long way. And then you just don't care. And the more you invest into yourself, the higher standards that you have, the less likely you are to let any bullshit slip through the cracks, the less likely you are to lower your standards out of loneliness or boredom, having kind of like that lack mentality. Because I think a lot of people make decisions because of that. Like, they don't think they have a better option. They don't think something better is going to come along. And of course, there's also like the opposite of that, where, you know, especially like on dating apps and stuff, it's like, oh, maybe something is better out there. But I feel like for a lot of women, at least, it's like you're staying in a bad situation because you just don't think something better is out there for you. Y'all have to realize there are so many guys in this world. So, like, if I was like super de-duper lonely or bored or just like, oh my god, what if no guy ever wants to see me again? I would not have sent my tantalizing text, and I would have been like, okay, like, I guess, like, since he's asking me, like, he said he'd call me an Uber, so, like, that's probably the best treatment I'm gonna get, so I should probably just go because I don't want to miss out on this opportunity. And it's like, what opportunity? And I'm not saying the girlies are literally thinking like that, but it's, like, kind of, like, a subconscious belief that nothing better is out there, and, like, you're getting so excited at, like, the bare minimum. Or sometimes it's not even the bare minimum, it's actually, like, something bad. It's, like, a disease. And you're like, oh my god, like, does he like me? And it's like, babe, you think he's texting this to the girl he actually really likes? Like, he's just trying to get something. He's seeing who will answer. So once you start looking at things from a logical perspective, what do I gain from this perspective? Let me put myself first perspective, your whole life will improve for the better. And you'll just have better experiences. You won't settle for the bullshit. And it's a snowball effect, as I think I said in a previous episode. Because once you start to do that, once you're leveling up, dodging the dusties, feeling good, you're being taken only on, like, nice dates, it boosts your self-esteem. You feel better because you're getting this, like, nice treatment. You look good, people are complimenting you, and you just want to keep doing that. Tantalizing offer, but I'm gonna have to pass. Stop investing your emotional energy into things that don't benefit you. Seriously, you need to get strict. It's the beginning of the month. We're over halfway through the year, which is insane when you think about it. Like, what? And it's time to get strict. And that's the only way you're going to succeed. All of this stuff that we're fed, like, oh my god, your life is over after 25. Oh my god, you're going to get so ugly. Oh my god, like, as a woman, your looks fade after age 21. Like, do y'all remember reading, like, 17 magazine? And I remember being so scared of, like, the freshman 15. Because they'd always be like, oh my god, beware, like, you're going to gain so much weight when you go to college. The real reason why I didn't go to college, no, I'm just kidding. It was, like, all this, like, fear-mongering, like, oh my god, like, things are gonna be bad. And it's like, okay, if you have structure in your life, if you take care of yourself, if you make decisions that support your best interest, and if you're true to yourself and don't fall for the bullshit, don't accept bullshit, and advocate for yourself, you're gonna avoid so much bullshit. Because most people's problems come from, making decisions that are not in their best interest. And a lot of that, I'm not like trying to blame people, because a lot of that is, trauma, it's internalized shit. It's like from your childhood. It's like, damn, like I was just in a bad situation. But that's just like the truth. Like a lot of people get themselves in bad situations because like they made a mistake. They weren't like thinking long term, like something. Of course, not always. I'm not trying to blame. I'm not victim blaming. I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, Susan did not have to be in that dusty apartment. Like, she could have literally, like, she inherited so much money. She could have, like, literally moved to a better house. And instead, this guy's like, nah. And then it's like, because you are so desperate for this guy, like, you're gonna, like, throw your life away. And now you're, like, a stripper and, like, embarrassed and, like, stressed out at the grocery store because you can't afford your groceries, when like none of this had to happen, because if you literally just like weren't desperate for this guy, like, so shit happens, life happens, but luckily there's always a chance to begin again. And every day, like, as long as you're alive, you have time. Every day is an opportunity to start putting yourself first, to invest more into yourself, and to make decisions every day to advocate for yourself, put yourself first, live truer to yourself. Try to get to know yourself a little bit deeper, because that's really the most important thing. And I cannot tell you guys how good it feels. Be authentic to yourself and to love yourself. And like, how fun it is to just be single and like laugh at these guys. Like, would you rather be in a relationship stressed out, or would you I'm just kidding. Would you rather be having a laugh at 5 a.m, texting a thirsty bro, tantalizing offer, but I'm gonna have to pass? I prefer my peace and having things the way that I want them. And if you just are really unhappy being by yourself and like alone, you need to like work on that, because it's literally like, it can be so great. And I'm not saying, you need to like be alone, or like being with someone is bad. Like, I'm not saying that, but it's just like, you need to get comfortable being alone, because if you're not, you're going to put up with so much bullshit to avoid yourself. And you have to be with yourself your whole life. So get to know her, sis. So that is all I'm going to talk about today. Actually, one last thing. I have been reading my book. I need to return it in a few days, but Hidden Potential, The Science of Achieving Greater Things by Adam Grant. And there was just this one section I took a photo of that I wanted to share with you guys. It's about taking breaks, and how just working and working and working is not productive, because it leads to burnout. You'll start to resent your craft or whatever it is you're trying to improve at. So it says, it turns out that taking breaks has 3 benefits. First, time away from practice helps to sustain harmonious passion. Research indicates that even micro breaks of 5 to 10 minutes are enough to reduce fatigue and raise energy. It's not just about preventing burnout. Research reveals that when we work nights and weekends, our interest and enjoyment in our tasks drops. Even just reminding you that it's a Saturday is enough to reduce your intrinsic motivation. You realize that you could be doing something fun and relaxing instead. Second, breaks unlock fresh ideas. In my own research, I found that taking breaks boosts creativity when you feel a harmonious passion towards a task. Your interest keeps the problem active in the back of your mind, and you're more likely to incubate new ways of framing it and unexpected ways of solving it. Third, breaks deepen learning. In one experiment, taking a 10-minute break after learning something improved recall for students by 10 to 30%. Obsession leads us to see rest as taking a foot off the gas pedal. We don't stop until we've pushed ourselves to the edge of exhaustion. Under harmonious passion, it's easier to recognize that rest is a supply of fuel. We take regular reprieves to maintain energy and avoid burnout. Relaxing is not a waste of time, it's an investment in well-being. Breaks are not a distraction, they're a chance to reset attention and incubate ideas. Play is not a frivolous activity, it's a source of joy and a path to mastery. So again, baby yourself, nurture yourself. It's not about like, I need to be the best all the time. Like, yeah, being the best is like taking a rest, like enjoying your life. Something also interesting about just being older, and I mean, this was like, I did recognize this back in the day too, because like health is wealth, like I've always been about that, but especially just being in the industry and stuff, it's like weird to kind of realize, like, I guess just, like, how much is fake and, like, how many celebrities or, like, really successful people are actually miserable or relying on drugs or, like, all this stuff. And it's, like, they're not, like, harmonious passion. I don't know what it is, if it's just, like, the summer vibe or, like, I've just been having a good time lately, knock on wood. But I've just been so peaceful and content in my days. Like, I've been productive. I've just been, you know, getting my steps, spending time in nature, outside, getting enough rest, like, feeling strong in the gym, getting good sleep. Except, like, the other night when I was out. But, like, you know, play. And it just feels so good. And, like, I think that is really the key to life. And I just know for myself, I only want to make decisions that increase that feeling of, like, well-being, confidence, laughter, play, and balance. Like, I do not want to be burned out, stressed out. Life is also just too short. And, you know, I'm so old at the age of 25. I'm, like, ancient now. So I hope you guys can take away something from this week's episode. Let me know your thoughts on anything down below. Hashtag, I'm just kidding, but hashtag tantalizing. What a tantalizing episode this was. I'm just kidding. Love you guys, and I will talk to you guys next week.